I speak very often about Titus Brandsma to different people. And years ago I used to say, the title of this retreat was Titus Brandsma, a model for lay Carmelites in the 21st century, a model. But I have changed my mind, and I think it's not so much a model to imitate, it's an inspirational figure, Some people say, well, Second Vatican Council was talking about lay people in the church, lay people have a mission, lay people become saint being lay, so you have not to be, you don't have to imitate friars or to imitate nuns, you have to be saint in your life as lay people, married or not, workers, professionals, so that's where you have to be saint. Holiness doesn't mean to imitate clerics or to imitate friars. No, you have to be holy lay people, and that's your way and that's your place for sanctity in your lay life. So some people say you are proposing a friar as a model for lay people. So I used to say, well, I'm not proposing a friar to be imitated. If you are married, if you are workers, if you are in the world, you cannot live as Titus lived. But I am proposing Titus as an inspirational figure. So you probably cannot imitate many things of his life, but you can get inspiration from Titus Brandsma, the attitudes that Titus Brandsma had, How can I live those attitudes in my lay life? It's more or less clear what I want to say. So it's not a question of imitate nuns and friars and clerics. That's not your way of being holy. Your way of being holy and to be saint, and every Christian has to pretend, has to make an effort to be holy, is to be lay people, lay men and lay women. But Titus gives us inspiration, some attitudes that can be very inspirational for ourselves. This is a long debate in the Catholic Church. I remember, and probably Albert remembers also, when Blessed Nuno Alvarez Pereira, many of you probably don't know him, was a sort of warrior in the Middle Ages in Portugal, and a constable. He was, don't say this out of here, he was fighting against Spain, against my country. But we are friends now, we are good friends now, And Nuno Alvarez has been for centuries Blessed Nuno Alvarez, Blessed Nuno, Beato Nuno. But after a process, 12 years ago, he became Saint Nuno Alvarez Pereira. And some people were a little bit critical with it. Is that the model you are proposing to Christians of the 21st century? A man who was a warrior in the Middle Ages? It sounds like Disney World films or something. Is this we can propose that to modern Christians? And I said, well, we are not going to imitate a warrior of the Middle Ages, but we are receiving inspiration from him. We have to analyze his life, his example, his attitudes, and I can tell you that Saint Nuno Alvarez has been very fruitful for the Carmelite spirituality. He was a rich man, very powerful man. If you visit Portugal, Portugal is a neighbor country with Spain. We have a narrow relationship. if you visit Portugal, you see, oh, that castle, that was from Nuno Álvares Pereira. All those lands were Nuno. Or Nuno won a battle here, and he was a very powerful person. And when he became widow, he decided to be a Carmelite, to be a friar. Not even a priest, a simple friar, the poorest in the convent. And he joined in the friary of Lisbon, and he was doing there the lowest works, cleaning and going in the street asking money and so on. And the Prince of Portugal was very angry because he said this is not worthy, the constable. And they were linked with the royal family. I think his daughter was married with one of the royal family or something like that. And the prince went there and said, this is a shame for us, you are like a beggar in the streets asking money for the convent and so on. And I ask you two things: not to do this and to keep the title of constable. And Nuno answered, the constable died and is buried in a Carmelite friary. It's like Saint Francis, that's my old life. My new life is very different. So we can pick from there wonderful attitudes, in a society like ours, in which we are very arrogant and we all pretend to be very important and very happy. You see how happy people is in Facebook? Everybody's happy in Facebook. It's a wonderful world, Everybody's happy. Nice traveling, restaurants, and so we are also happy. And politicians, they are so arrogant. They don't listen each other. They shout each other, and they don't listen. They are not able to recognize something good in the contrary. They never recognize anything good in the other politicians. So in this world, Nuno Álvares Pereira, warrior of the Middle Ages, gives us an example of humility, of conversion, radical conversion, and so on, not to be slaves of our self-image. We are so worried about our image, about our... And so you see, a man of the Middle Ages can be also inspirational for us. The great saints are not only for a period of history, are not only for a country, are not only for a sort of people, a type of people. The example of the great saints is for everybody, Of course, we have to make an effort of discernment. We have to make an effort of interpretation. To imitate people of other ages is ridiculous. Some people say, oh, Saint Teresa had a habit of wool and so on, and we want to buy that habit. Well, but Saint Teresa, who was a holy woman, wanted to be poor, and that's why she used that sort of wool, because it was the typical material for the poor people. But now, if you go to the shop and you try to buy that wool, that's very, very expensive, because we use these habits, this is material, you can buy it in Shanghai or, and this. And so we have to be faithful, not to the little things, not imitate the little things. Oh, St. John of the Cross had the beard like this, and I want to, the hermits of Mount Carmel, they were doing this and that, and I want to be like the hermits. We cannot do that. That's ridiculous. That's childish, We have to make a mature effort of discernment, And that's much more difficult. That's much more difficult, We have not to think what the great saints did, but rather what they would do if they lived in our times, So how could Titus react to the world situation now? how would Teresa or Nuno, Mary Magdalene or Patsy react in our situation? And to do that, of course, we need an exercise of discernment, of interpretation. That's very, very important. So we can propose Titus for Christians and for believers of the 21st century, even if are lay people, married, workers, or whatever, it can be an inspirational figure. Speaking about translation, some months ago I gave a talk about Titus Brandsma in Dublin, in Trinity College, and the topic was the reaction of Titus against national socialism. So it was about the conflict between Titus and national socialism. And I said a very famous anecdote of the life of Titus. When he was in jail, the German official who was interrogating him asked him to write an essay on why Dutch Catholics are against national socialism. So he asked Titus, write a little essay about the opposition of Dutch Catholics to national socialism. So Titus, who was a professor, was a philosopher, was a journalist, was a writer, wrote a little essay about that. And at the end of that essay, he wrote a wonderful idea. He wrote, God bless Holland, God bless Germany, may these two great peoples walk again together in freedom and peace. So it was a blessing, the end of the essay. Is okay? So people were very emotional about that, because especially Germans, because it's nice. One of the last words of Father Titus was a blessing for Germany, for Holland. And I spoke about that in Dublin, in this conference. And a lady, at the end of the conference, is there any question? And the lady said, Father, can I translate that? And I said, perhaps my English was not so good. I need translation, because English is not my first language. I speak common English, this airport English, I call it, airport English. So I said, yeah, of course, you can translate it. And she said, God bless Russia, God bless Ukraine, God bless Israel, God bless Palestine. May all those peoples walk again in peace and justice, So she made a very touching translation of the sentence of Titus Brandsma. So you see, that's what we have to do, to translate the model, the example, the inspiration of the saints for our own context, our own life, our own situation. How can I, a married man, a married woman, a Carmelite, a Carmelite student, how can I be holy in this context? And what is Titus teaching to me for my own journey of sanctity, of holiness? This is the big challenge for us. Are we okay? Too quickly or?
I'm trying to be okay.
No, you are perfect. I see their faces. They are saying it's very clear. No, don't worry at all. So, finish the introduction. This is only the introduction. Okay. So, how can we be, what are the main elements of Titus that we can apply to our life? I have put here, I think, 5 or 6. We'll speak about this. The first one is Titus was a missionary man.